Hello and welcome to another edition of Public Conscience, brought to you by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOC for short. I am Chukwudi Okoliubaja. Ohiria is away on a very important assignment, but I have the privilege of presenting the program today with Adobe Obiabomo.
Thanks for joining the program.
We are dealing with a case of what We are dealing with a case of what investigative journalists, International Center for Investigative Reporting, consider to be a rather strange case of police and customs, releasing a truck said to have had codeine and other illicit drugs as its cargo.
Not just that, the story is that when police eventually took some persons to court, nothing about codeine or illicit drugs was on the charge sheet. They were prosecuted for offense that had nothing to do with what was thought to be a straight case of illicit drug peddling.
Public Conscience has in the studio the ICIR. The ICIR is short for International Center for Investigative Reporting. We have the reporter who pursued that investigation. Thus, welcoming Chikezie OMEJE to the program. Chikezie, please give us a quick recount of what happened.
Thank you for inviting me to talk about this important investigation. Let me just give a summary of what happened, not just about the story, but how we went about the story. It was on January 7th. My editor got a tip from somebody in Lagos that police intercepted a truckload of codeine, and the police officers were trying to release the truck. So the editor gave me the information, so I contacted the source. I needed to see evidence of the truck, so I asked the source to take a picture of the truck and send to me. So he took some pictures and sent to me. Then I checked the truck. Actually, it was registered in Netherlands, and they have not been registered in Nigeria. It was a new used truck being imported into the country. And I checked the registration number. Okay, it was registered to a haulage company in Netherlands. So I said, well, even if the source did not give us the details, at least for police to arresting this truck and keeping it for a long time, probably there is something in there. So I told my editor, probably there is a need for me to travel to Lagos and see what is in there. So on 8th, I couldn't travel on the 8th. Then on the 9th, I traveled to Lagos. I arrived Lagos very late at night. And then that was on 10th. I went to Alagbo for CID, where the truck was detained. By the time I got to Alagbo police station, the truck had disappeared. So, and I couldn't keep communicating with my source. But before I left Abuja, the information I got from the source was that the matter was charged to court, and it was charged at the Igbosere Magistrate Court.
Any attempt to talk to the police at that stage before you were told it's gone to Igbosere court?
No, it was investigation, so I needed to know exactly what was in that truck, because the source just said that the truck contained illicit drugs, and police was trying to release the truck. So we got the information on the 7th. So he didn't send us the picture evidence of that truck until the 8th of January. So it was when I got the picture that, okay, I was convinced that even though we have never worked with this source before, then probably there's something in there. Even if it's not drug, there is something in there, and it will be in public interest to find out why the police detained the truck. So I got to Lagos at midnight I took the last flight. I got to Lagos midnight on Wednesday. That was on the 9th. Then on 10th, I went to Alagbo for CID to see the truck, and the truck was not there. So what I did was to go to Igbosere Magistrate Court to find out, but I didn't have the suspects. I didn't have the name of the suspect. The names I had were like up to 7 names. Okay, so I didn't know exactly who was the suspect. But I went to Igbosere Magistrate Court, and the court clerks told me that would be impossible to find the case file. And then, but they tried, I convinced them, they started searching. I didn't know when the matter was even brought to court. So the court clerk searched all through the files. They didn't see any case involving illicit drug importation. So they searched for almost 1 hour and they didn't see. So they told me that I already knew the person in charge of the case. That was the police prosecutor was Harry Obiaze. So they told me that the only way I could get the case file was to see the prosecutor so that he could give me the case number. Then I will come back to the court. Then probably they look for the case file. So I went back to the police station to meet Harry Obiaze, and he told me that he declined to talk to me. He said that he can't talk to a journalist that is not the first PRO. So if I want any information, I should go and talk to the PRO. And then I told him, see, this matter has been charged to court, so it's now in public view.
The public domain.
So I don't see the point of hiding anything about it. Just, I'm not asking you any other thing. Just give me the case file. He said he will not. Okay, I say, when is the next adjourned date of this case? He said he will not give me. So I went to meet the PRO of Alagbo for CID, and he told me that he too will not talk about case under investigation, that I should contact Abuja, the first PRO, so that will authorize him to talk to me. So it was a long process. It was on Thursday. I only have that Thursday and Friday. So I went back to Igbo Magistrate Court. There was no headway. So how will I start looking for a case? I don't even know the charge sheet. I don't know the case file and all that. So it was like a lost case. So then I went to the prisons. So in that Igbo Magistrate Court, so they have prison warders there. Okay, so I talked to one of them. Is there a possibility of finding out people that have been charged to court, maybe they are in detention in prison or awaiting trial and all that? He said that would be impossible because I don't even have the names of the suspects. So where will I start from? So that was on Friday.
Yes.
And end of that Friday, I needed to come back to Abuja on Saturday because weekend they don't work and all that. But I was confused because my source was saying that if the case, had to do with something goose that is more than 10 million naira, is beyond the magistrate court. Maybe it was charged in the high court. So I didn't know where to start, going around all the courts in Lagos to find out about the case. I don't even know the suspect and all that. So
you were completely put in the dark.
I was completely in the dark. So I came back to Abuja and then I started digging. So I started to check because the source told me it was tramadol, okay? And there was this argument whether tramadol has been banned in Nigeria or not, okay? We know that federal government announced the ban on importation of cough syrup with codeine. So, but the tramadol, we don't know about. So I just needed to know the technicality about the ban and all that.
Some background.
Yes, about what NAFDAC, what should not be imported into Nigeria and all that. So when I went to the NAFDAC website, and I saw that NAFDAC issued a press statement on January 11th, that Friday, that NAFDAC, they impounded a vehicle containing illicit drugs, but at a point, the police came around and then they took the vehicle to the police station. So I said, probably this could be the truck I went to Lagos to look for. Then I went to NAFDAC office in Abuja to find out. So I need to see the truck you impounded. So can you show me the picture? And the guy in the NAFDAC office called the Lagos office, and they sent a picture of just cartons of seized drugs and all that. It wasn't making any sense to me because I was looking for the truck. Yes, but so I contacted another journalist in Lagos, a colleague. Please go to NAFDAC office, find out if the truck is there, the truck they impounded. Just take the picture and send to me. So when he went to the NAFDAC office, he was said that the picture was not there. It was in the police station. Okay, so it was then we went to police station and we saw the truck. That was in Mushin, Area D command in Mushin. So I started asking what actually happened. So I started trying to connect everything to build new sources to find out what exactly happened there. And then we got a source that was able to explain to me what happened to the truck when it left Alagbo police station. Yeah. He said the truck left Alagbo police station on January 8th. Okay, that's 2 days before I arrived. So, and then they intercepted the truck. There was a tip of somebody alerted NAFDAC that the police was about to release the truck. So, and then NAFDAC intercepted the truck. So when NAFDAC was about to drive the truck to the NAFDAC operatives to their warehouse, then the police and the customs suddenly appeared at the scene. So argument now ensued, who will take possession of the truck?
From your source?
Yes.
Which is private to you as a journalist.
Exactly. So, it was a big altercation between the three agencies. So the police was telling customs, please go back to the borders. You let in this truck in the first place after collecting drug. So it's not, you don't have any business here.
Jurisdiction
so leave us. Yes, exactly.
Matters would arise.
Exactly. And then NAFDAC protested. We are the one in charge of enforcing, drugs standard and all that. Police said no. The cases we have referred to you in the past, you have not done anything about it. So we are taking possession of this truck. So it was that argument, and then they all now police won the argument, and then the NAFDAC and the custom, they all went together to the police station, and it was there they inspected the truck, and then the content was like codeine, cough syrup with codeine imported from India.
Taking us to the eventual outcome of the case.
Exactly. What happened was that the truck carrying the illicit drugs came in through the semi-border. So customs officer collected bribe and then
No, you didn't see him collect a bribe.
Okay.
They told you the customs officer collected a bribe.
Yes,
you
that
know
was
how
that's
we
from,
do
that,
these
that
things
was,
as
that
journalists.
was that was from my source.
Source.
Okay.
Good. Your source said so.
But the fact is that customs left the truck to come into the country.
In the first place.
Then somebody alerted the police. So the first CID, the IGP squad. So the team that now intercepted, the police team that now intercepted the truck, after somebody alerted them, was led by one inspector Adeleke. So they arrested the truck and then took it to Alagbo for CID. So it was in December they did the arrest. Then in January 3rd, they charged the suspect to court, the two suspects, Lukumba and Benga Falond.
Has the case been concluded?
So they charged them to court, but it was not importation of illicit drugs that the police charged them with.
You are saying that the wrong charge was given for a matter that you thought was illicit drugs.
So it's been going on like
conveyance.
Yeah, the source I spoke to was that once because they got the tip off from customs, and then the police will not, because the suspects have been detained for long, they will not just release them just like that.
Okay.
And then to absolve themselves of the responsibility of releasing the truck, they will charge the case to court. But what they do is that they will charge them with a lesser crime. Okay. So what they charged the people was that they were in possession of unlawful possession of drugs suspected to have been stolen, pharmaceutical goods suspected to have been stolen. Okay. So it was arraigned on 3rd, and then the magistrate, the chief magistrate of Igosore, granted the suspect bail. Then the following day, one of the suspects, Benga, now filed a motion of notice asking for the release of the trucks. And then the magistrate granted the prayer, and the truck was released. So what we didn't conclude was why, okay, even if they were charged with lesser crime,
yes,
in possession of stolen goods. So I'm not a lawyer, but why did the magistrate release the truck when the matter has not been determined?
Wow.
So it's just the case of what has been going on in Nigeria.
Okay, you have done your job as a journalist. Summation of trends in Nigeria could be taking you a little out of your field. So let's be careful there.
Exactly.
The point is that some level of suspicion exists on your mind that some shadiness may have happened in the process. Let me at this point tell us that we have somebody in the studio. Please, Chikeze, thanks for that and low down. We have somebody in the studio who has been in the security system and can talk to us about what I think is or was at that stage unnecessary feedback in terms of interagency relationships. We are bringing onto the mic now Mr. Mike EJIOFOR, who's a security expert, a consultant. Mr. EJIOFOR, you were not there, so you couldn't possibly vindicate, exonerate, or validate a journalist's account. But you can at least tell us how the agencies can work to reduce the specter of, no, that's not how they should have handled this thing and all that, from maybe bloody civilians like us. Can you please touch on that a bit?
From his account, there seem to be some pecuniary interests among the agencies. I wouldn't say for sure because I have not heard from any of the parties. But from what he is saying, people have failed to do their job for some obvious reasons. And I think the reasons are not in the national interest.
Okay.
It could be for personal interest. And it's a big challenge because if you look at this government that is fighting corruption and people are still undermining the process, undermining the efforts of government. So I think this calls for serious investigation to know who and who, because from his account,
yes,
the judiciary is involved, the police is involved, NAFDAC is involved, customs is involved.
In fact, the case has gone full circle, so to speak.
Yes,
I think
so. I think the only agencies left here now is the Army and possibly the State Security Service. So it would have been a full circle, but I think this calls for serious investigation. More so, the content of what he is alleging that was brought in is something that is even increasing at the major root cause of crimes in Nigeria. Because the codeine that contains tramadol actually influences youths to commit more crimes. So if you allow that into the society, you're going to be encouraging crime. So
but some people will tell you that those drugs actually make a youth think that an AK-47 is chewing stick.
Of course, that's the point. Because you're under drugs, you tend to do things that ordinarily you wouldn't have done because you are under influence.
Is it not possible, or was it not possible at that stage, at appropriate stages, for the police to have interacted with the journalist and upped the game of credibility, which is intoned or which is necessary in the entire process? Why the shrouding of things in secrecy when at the end of the day we are all crime fighters in a way?
Yeah, I think from his account he should have also issued it to the national headquarters, because from his account he was directed to go and see the first PRO in Abuja, and I'm sure he didn't do that.
No, I did. You know, as a journalist, you exhaust all options.
You have to.
You exhaust all options.
You saw the...
Because you're pursuing factuality, fairness, accuracy, objectivity, and balance. So help you God.
I called the former first PRO, what's his name again? Jim Omoshu. I called him more than 10 times. He didn't respond. Okay? So that was what happened. But you know, as a journalist, you keep throwing pebbles here and there and all that. Even on that Friday, that was this thing. I went back to Igosore Magistrate Court. I saw Hero Bianze, the prosecutor. So there was a case. I thought it was the case. I went into the court. When the charges were read, it was not the case. So I left. So you keep pushing and all that. Even when I went to prison, they said they could charge to see in the charge sheets of the people they have, you know, in detention between December and January, to see if that could fall. I could get maybe one of the suspects. But the guy there demanded for bribe. I said, no, it's unethical for me to offer you bribe for you to give me information. So I can't do that. I can't do that. So what we are looking at, this is not just a case of interagency rivalry. This is a case of collusion and bribery. Okay, it's a clear case of collusion and bribery. But what was at play was that probably somebody did not want the illicit drugs to get to the public. Okay, and that was the person probably that informed police after custom released the truck.
That's a deduction.
Yes, that's my own theory.
Okay.
So, and that was what my source said. Okay, somebody did not want the drugs to get to the public, so alerted the police. The police now, according to the source, collected the bribe, charged the suspects with lesser crime, and then the magistrate released them and also released the truck. Okay, and so the truck was already moving towards the east. Okay, when the NAFDAC intercepted the truck.
Mr. EJIOFOR, we know there must be a recourse to interagency jurisdiction at a point, but NAFDAC and the police or customs needed to cooperate on this matter, even up to where the case went to court. What do you say to this, sir?
You're stretching the first answer you gave there.
Yeah, there seems to be no synergy among them for obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons. Can you please explain further?
Obvious reasons, because if we are acting in national interest, there should be that synergy. Or one agency should be interested in what the other is doing to check crime. They all have their jurisdiction. NAFDAC is for regulation of drugs and food, while police enforces law. Customs takes charge. I don't even see the jurisdiction of customs here, except perhaps for the importation of the vehicle, which is carrying a foreign plate number. But like I said, we need to further interrogate these allegations.
Yes.
Okay, you know, a month, few days before the truck was intercepted,
Yes.
customs announced that their customs officers rejected a bribe of 150 million naira, okay, to let in illicit drugs, tramadol, and then it was a celebrated case. The customs officers were celebrated all over on the social media.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What was the eventual outcome?
And he began to ask if the same custom intersected illicit drugs and made a full public disclosure and handed it over to NAFDAC, why didn't the officers at Semeboda also alerted NAFDAC and then handed over the suspect and then the illicit drugs to NAFDAC? They did not do that. So they left the guy to drive the truck into the country, and then somebody else alerted the police. Police arrested the suspect, detained them for more than 3 weeks, charged them to court with a lesser crime, and then the suspects were released, and then somebody else now alerted NAFDAC. So, but what I saying, we have a lawyer here. At that point, NAFDAC intercepted. Which agency should take control of that truck?
I'm getting jealous because you're taking over my duty here. But we're going to get on that. I like your thinking. But let us, at this point, go to the cause. You are onto Public Conscience, a production of the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development. And we are talking about a case of a truckload of alleged illicit drugs somehow being diverted.
No, it's no longer alleged because NAFDAC say it was cough syrup containing codeine imported from India.
Okay,
so
fine.
It's no longer.
That is still on the strength of a journalist's investigation.
Well,
that's why we talk like this.
That's the statement from NAFDAC.
It's okay. We have a call. It's coming in. Please, can you tell us your name? Oh, hello. Can you come in?
This is Daniel calling.
You're loud and clear.
Yeah, my brother, you are not here to that your colleague. Allow him to say his mind. Why is it that you people are always afraid of this Nigerian government?
Are we?
He is a journalist. I understand you, sir. But when the truth is right, let's hear the truth. He is not allegedly. He is saying what is happening. We also even inside your voice, the retired DSS post. He knows what's going on. Look at the statement that he's using. That the security agency, they don't have issue with themselves. They have. Please, let's tell ourselves the truth. This is the time for the government of today to do the needful for our products to be taken serious. Look at now. They'll be telling us that there is no problem. The president will give order that he close border, How come all these bad things are coming to Nigeria? If you remember 2 years ago, Colonel Ali, the custom boat, was show us some guns that they brought out of the from outside the Nigeria to this country. We have the question, how come, who are the people who bring these guns? They told us that the driver was arrested. Does it mean the driver of the truck did not send them anything? Does it mean they don't know who the gun? Now we are still killing here and there. Some more. Everybody are taking drugs. Who are the people who are importing these drugs to Nigeria?
Thank you so much.
We want to know the head.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there another call in there? Please, can you talk to us?
Hello.
Oh, go ahead. You're so clear.
My name is Okam. The question I really want to ask is, if custom took bribe, like the journalist alleged, and then the police intercepted, in the normal political environment, the police it's not their duty to check drugs. They should have alerted NAFDAC immediately. There is even the position of NAFDAC that will scrutinize it to identify whether the drug is fake, whether it's contraband drugs or something. Police don't even have the right. That was why the thing started failing. How can they charge you on a letter file as allegedly stolen? And then he said something, a vehicle was bailed. My family business was transportation. I know very well that the vehicle they drive instead was somebody that drove the vehicle. The vehicle is liable. Once the victims have been bailed by the court, the next thing you're coming for is to bail your vehicle, which is a standard procedure in everywhere. No court will deny you a bail of a vehicle, except it's used for something that is not contraband, except it's used for what do you call it, bunkering, which the government specified that you will lose your vehicle. But if it's on smuggling, the vehicle didn't drive itself. That's the question I really want to ask. And then the next one I learned is that the drugs they are talking about, because me, I know that I once took codeine cough syrup on prescription. So I don't see the reason why this is a drug that helps some life, and then the government will totally ban it. It's not, but it has to be regulated. There are some drugs out there, but I have a friend that is a medical doctor who went to a pharmaceutical company to buy a drug, a pharmaceutical shop to buy a drug sometimes. He was have to get his ID card, he brought, and he filled a form.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there another call in there? Please, can you talk to us?
Hello.
Oh, go ahead. You're so clear.
My name is Godfrey. I want to thank Adewumi Daniel. That guy is wonderful. He makes wonderful contributions. I almost have nothing to add to what he has contributed, except to say that the security agencies are deliberately punishing or suffering Nigerians because of simple greed. They know what they should do. All of them know their limits. It's just sheer greed. Everybody wants to cut out of the bribery. They are all cutting. At the end of the day, the society will suffer. Unfortunately, they too have families that will suffer it too. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Adobe. We must have some feedback from the previous edition. Can we go over that?
Our first mail is from Hope in Lube in Abuja, and he says, frankly speaking, I totally agree with your analyst. The Empower scheme is a full-blown corruption scheme. If only 30% of workers are working sincerely, then 70% of it is lost. Then you would agree with me that it is a failed project. Our second mail is from Ugo in Life Camp in Abuja, and he says, I am a beneficiary of the Empower scheme, and I have been working. It has helped reduce the burden on teachers. It is the head teachers and the principals of schools that collect percentages from some beneficiaries and allow them to abscond from duties. I know some new beneficiaries that came to our school but never came back again. Maybe they have given the head teacher money. I want to advise that the inspectors should do their job. Our third mail is from Nnamdi Abana via our YouTube channel, and he says, media organizations should send out more undercover journalists to bust corrupt government officials. Many thanks for your mails. Keep them coming through info@primark.org. Visit our social media handles at official Primark or call 0902 265 6167.
We had to reorganize the schedule to accommodate these mails, but we do appreciate the fact that some of you called in, and it is now time for us to actually go back to the two guests in the studio. Mr. EJIOFOR, it is the same recurring decimal. There is pervading inter-agency suspicion. People are saying there was collusion and all that. It is one thing, one headache that refuses to go away. No analgesic seems to be appropriate enough to treat it. Why?
Well, before I answer you, I think I have to make a correction from one of your callers.
Please go ahead.
That I said the agencies don't have problems on this matter. That is not true. What I said that if the agencies were acting in national interest, this shouldn't have arisen because of the, I think I used pecuniary interests of the players. That's where we find ourselves this, and I called for a more detailed investigation because this is a very serious allegation because of its implications to the society. So I want that corrected.
Okay.
Then you talk about the issues not being resolved. Don't also forget that Nigerians, people, these very agencies, they are Nigerians. There's no amount of fight against corruption in Nigeria that will eradicate corruption completely. But with journalists like this exposing the ills in the society, it will encourage, it will not put the various agencies that are involved in this matter on their toes to find out the real truth and who is behind it. So I think that is what we are here for, to expose all this and ensure that we have that etiquette, the attitude. Because what we need in this country is just attitudinal change. Values, we have lost our values. People think of money, no matter how you make the money, whether you are working hard or not. And that's why you see people on Yahoo Plus and what have you, people under drugs, under influence of alcohol. It's a big challenge. So all these are corrupt processes.
I want to thank you for commending the amplification which this program is all about. We call to public attention issues investigated by our partner journalists out there doing a good job, just like the Mr. OMEJE here has done. Chikezie, that takes us back to you. You wanted to respond to what a caller said there.
Yes,
you have your chance.
It was talking about an important drug as a cough syrup containing codeine. It's very important. People use it, apply it judiciously, and people who are in pain, they use it to treat pain. But we have seen abuse of this drug, over the years in Nigeria. The ICIR did an investigation in 2017 detailing the abuse of codeine in northern Nigeria, especially northern women. And then, last year again, BBC did an investigation that also exposed people who are addicted to these drugs. And then it was a public outcry. And then federal government responded by importation of cough syrup containing codeine. The federal government said that other drugs that do not have codeine should be used in the management of pain. So, but the question we should be asking ourselves as Nigerians is, should we ban this essential drug because some people are abusing it? Can't we find ways to regulate the drugs so that those who need it will get it? There are other drugs in Nigeria. There are drugs you go to any pharmacy, you won't get it except you have prescription. So the question we are asking ourselves is, why shouldn't we restrict it that way? But if you come out to say you have banned a drug, and NAFDAC admitted to me that nobody has been issued license to either produce or import cough syrup containing codeine since May last year.
Yes.
See, so this one was imported from India into the country in December. So that is a violation of federal government regulation. And then if you violate a country's regulation, there should be a penalty for that. When a country makes a regulation, the agencies should enforce this regulation. It's not just making it and it's there. The next leg of our investigation is we still find cough syrups with codeine being sold on the street. How do they come into the countries? These are one of the ways they come into the country. But when you ban important drugs like that, people that need this drug will still get it. Cocaine has been banned by many countries, but you still see people using cocaine in those countries. So that's why people are making arguments. Should we legalize these drugs, even cocaine and all that? But that is a different matter altogether.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that it shows you the level of rot in our system.
So you, as a journalist, the public, as partners in decency, which we are all pursuing, you still have a job. Please give me permission to go to Mr. EJIOFOR at this point. I am interested in what gets done when some suspicion, when a matter goes to court. His lordship, the judge, has jurisdiction. There's nothing you can do about it. But when you feel that a mistrial has happened, when you feel the wrong case has been charged, thank God you're also a lawyer. Isn't there a way? Is it a petition that needs to go out to reorder a process you think is flawed?
You see, when the magistrate, in this case, he will only act on the case brought before him or her. So we don't know, like he said, that a lesser offense was a charge. That will also be deliberate. So you don't need to blame the judiciary, the presiding officer, because you will only act on the evidence before him. So I don't think that's or possibly you don't have any proof.
Spoken like a lawyer. Incidentally,
you don't have any proof, because once the judgment is made there,
yes,
it's because of the evidence before.
You
are saying the charge was unlawful possession,
yes,
which carries a lesser offense, and you cannot refuse bail.
That's what was brought before the magistrate. You can't act outside of that.
So the investigation should go into the police to see why a wrong charge was preferred.
What we are missing here is impunity.
Since
that story was published since January 17th,
yes,
none of the agencies have acted on this particular case.
That is part of
the individuals who were involved,
yes,
in this corruption have not been prosecuted. They are still working. They are still police officers. They are still custom officers.
Thank you so much. When you actually meet a vexed journalist, he goes out to do a lot of things and he doesn't think he's getting commensurate response to all the toil, all the hard work. I understand your feeling. The time is up. If we go on and on, I want to tell you that each time we spend on this program brings joy to me, because the job of Primogue is to amplify these cases being pursued by very hardworking journalists like the likes of Mr. Chikezie OMEJE, whom we are thanking for coming on the show. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me just make this point, please. One second. Journalists are not spirit. Until you give us late tips, we will not investigate big issues like this. So if yes, we are a non-profit news agency, independent, and we assure you that if you give us information, we'll act on it, and your identity will be protected. So if you want to reach out to us, just send us a mail at info@iciriNigeria.org.
I'm going to permit your professional advert.
Okay.
For good reasons. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And that takes us to Mr. EJIOFOR, who has been quite lucid over some of these points. We thank you again for coming on this edition of Public Conscience.
I hope you pursue this very allegation and see its logical conclusion.
As long as there is a country called Nigeria and we are lovers of the fatherland, we pledge to continue to do what we're doing here. Adobe, it's time to go.
Yeah, see you next week on another edition of Public Conscience. Thank you.
We thank you for listening and watching, because we're also on YouTube at Primogue
TV.
Primogue TV. You can also see us on YouTube. Please keep the faith. We'll do what we can to keep this country going in our own little way. Thanks for being there for us. Thank you.